All right, welcome to part 4 of these basic 3ds Max tutorials. Um, in this one, we're going to cover super simple rendering. Just going to show you the basics of that. We have this dirty box left over that we made in the last tutorial. We might as well go with it. Why not? So we're going to start with a plane so that we can at least show a shadow. One thing I did, I should have told you, should have done this later, but on the top left you have shaded view, which is the default, and we want to go ahead and change that to realistic just to make it a little more interesting to look at. You have your shadow, and it just helps to show, just see the objects interact. All right, so we can render without a camera, or we can render with a camera. I'm gonna put in a camera just to teach you how. So I'm gonna go into my quad, and I'm going to go back to a default kind of top view here, and I'm going to go to Create, under the Create drop-down menu, Cameras, and I'm going to do a target camera just because that's a little more interesting. So we've got our box there and our plane. So the first click is going to be the camera. The second click is going to be the target, so what it's pointing at. And hold it down. Hold down that first click and let go of it where you want your target. Okay, so now you're going to want to get out of the camera create mode just by pressing select object here. Makes things a lot easier. So you can see how it's kind of laid out here. It's pointed roughly at the box. It's a little low because everything that's created starts out on the plane. So what I'm going to do is actually look through that camera by right-clicking and saying Set View to selected camera. So I'm going to click on it. You can see that. You can kind of move around. It's a little bit more difficult than normal because there isn't really a target, isn't like meant to rotate around objects for modeling. And so this is going to be where we're going to render from. What I want to do is show you how to most easily manipulate it. I think it's easier to just take your move tool and do things from your other views in quad mode, because that way you can really see up, down, left, right, you know, which is the easiest way to move it and get the view you actually want easily. Okay. So now that we have this view of the box that isn't horrible, we can just do a really quick rendering. So to start with that, we are going to go to the Render Setup tab, which is right here. Click on it. You've got, if you're doing this with Mental Ray, you've got your basic presets. One thing that's important to know is whichever viewport has the color box around it is the one that's going to render. So if I click on this, if I was just playing around in this and then I think I'm rendering the camera, it's actually quad orthographic, which is the one that has the box around it. But then you go back to your camera and you've got, as you can see, quad camera 1. All right, so let's just play with the preset because that's really simple. Let's just go with daylighting for now, and I'll show you how to put in, just really quick, put in a daylighting system, which is really easy. So let's start with 640 by 480, really low. And so that's all we really need for a basic rendering. And here, what we're going to do is add our daylighting system by actually just going back to perspective, because that's going to make it easier. So just click on camera 1, click perspective. All right, so you can zoom out a little bit, and over here, under your systems, there's the two little gears tab, you'll have sunlight and a daylight. Let's go with a daylight for now. I think it's easier to do. So you kind of drag out your compass sort of north, south, east, west little graphic there first, and then you drag up the sun. You can drag the sun up and down. Doesn't really matter where it is. It's going to be the same. Have the same result no matter how high it is. It's really the sun angle that you're showing there. And so the way you can adjust your sun angle is, let's just go back to select now so we're not creating new daylight systems. Select your old daylight system, or the one you just made. Go to the Modify tab, and you will see your position right here. And so you can either manually adjust it, click on manual, and you can kind of just throw it wherever, or you can actually program the date and time by going to setup. And that's a little more complicated. You don't need to know how to do that yet. But let's just say this is where we are. This is the light that we want. I'm going to get a little bit more of an intense shadow here. just to illustrate. Now, one thing you'll notice that your shadow does not match your sun. So a way around that is to actually change your viewport configuration. So go to realistic, if you're still in realistic. Go all the way down to the bottom to configure, and you're going to see under lighting and shadows, you've got default lights, which is what it's going to start out with, and you've got scene lights. So just click scene lights and OK, and then now you're going to see the whole quality of the lighting changed, and the shadow is actually accurate now. So there we go. Let's go back to our camera by clicking on the perspective view, cameras, camera 1. All right, so now we can do this super basic rendering. It's probably going to look pretty crappy, but just click the render production, which is just the little teapot here, and that will give you hopefully a decent looking thing, not too overexposed or anything like that. Yeah, so that is how you do a very basic rendering in 3ds Max 2014. Thank you.